So my name is Madison Koutman. I am the marketing campaign manager for GiveSmart. We are thrilled to have you with us today. We are very lucky to have two speakers joining us who are extremely well-versed in the topics we will be covering. We have Brandon Steck, our Director of Digital and Strategic Marketing, and Kathy Nothnagel, GiveSmart's Content Manager. Thank you guys so much for being here today.
Thanks, happy to be here.
Me too.
Awesome. Okay, so we anticipate today's call going around 45 to 50 minutes. We will be taking questions throughout, so please drop those in the Q&A and we'll address them if they're relevant to the topic that we're talking about. Otherwise, we'll save them for a Q&A section at the end. We will also be using the chat to share resources with you throughout the call, so keep your eyes out for those. And finally, I wanted to make sure you all know that we are recording this call, and we will be sending out the full recording and our follow-up email. So be looking for that later today with all of the resources that we will be sharing. So with all of that fun stuff out of the way, let's get on the road. First things first, I wanted to address the elephant in the room. When we were building this webinar, we discovered that we had disagreements internally about the pronunciation of the word route. So help us settle this debate. Is it route or is it route? And I will get a poll started so everyone can start voting. While we get that poll going, Kathy, can you tell me a little bit about your nonprofit experience?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I sure can, because hopefully that will give some confidence to what I'm sharing today. So I worked in fundraising and voluntary health for about 12 years. And I worked on everything from our auction and gala to supporting some kind of major donor efforts to our walk program and logistics to our school fundraising program. So overall, I learned a lot. I definitely, I loved what I did. I believed in our mission. And so I know that there are a lot of like-minded folks here too. And I also definitely kind of learned as I went. And the intention of today is that you can perhaps get some takeaways and tips so that you can feel a little bit more confident in your plan and moving forward.
Awesome. Thank you, Kathy, for sharing. And so I will go ahead and end our poll and share our results. Looks like route won the debate over route.
I am shocked.
I am too.
I am too. Is it a Midwest thing?
And clearly, I mean, listen to the Chicago accent. I'm sure it is, but wow. Okay. I'm sorry, all of you, because I will probably be saying route, but we're excited that you're all here.
This is the greatest debate of 2021, and I am shocked by the results.
Same. All right. Perfect. All right, let's get started then. So today we will say it route, no other way. All right.
I can't guarantee I do that. I will try my best. I'll put $1 in the kitty every time I mess it up.
Yes, I'll have a root jar. So let's go over today's agenda. We are going to dive into the most important components of road trips. You've got your car, your itinerary, your map, your entertainment, and your snacks. We've correlated all of those components to the components that make up your fundraising efforts, things like sponsorships, events, and more. Throughout the webinar, we'll also be touching on pain points like the stop signs and speed bumps and concerns that we've all faced. Things like overcoming adversity, using technology in your events, getting items for your events, and more. So, and at the end, we'll wrap up with a few really cool campaign examples before going into our Q&A. So we'll touch on some really awesome campaigns that we've seen. So we have another poll, and this is just to kind of get us going and giving us some insight into how you guys are feeling about your upcoming events and campaigns. So what is your biggest challenge on your route to success? And I just said route. I meant route. We know these are pain points that organizations are facing today. We want to know which one is the biggest hurdle your organization is facing on your path to being as successful as possible. I'll go ahead and get this poll launched. And while we do that, Brandon, do you mind talking a little bit about our refreshed silent auction study?
Absolutely. And as you get on the route to success, we all know the silent auction is a huge piece of what you're doing. And that was me literally practicing saying route. Um, the silent auction study was produced back in 2020 um, before February. So really just heavily focused on looking at silent auction items, how they performed the previous year in categories. And what we did is we actually took that data and compared it to 2020 data and used the 2019 data that we had already and looked at some of the different opportunities to maybe see what changed, what kind of categories performed or overperformed or didn't perform as well. It's very interesting. We have it broken down regionally as well. It is available on our resource page on the website, but also will probably be shared in chat for you to download, and we'll reference it quite a bit. And then we have several webinars we've done off of that content. So just something, as we know, we've run millions of silent auction items through our platform. It was a great way to kind of look at what's been successful and really drill into the details of performance and by region, by area, by type of item, and those kinds of things.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. I know that's one of my favorite resources. And so I'm going to go ahead and end the poll so that we can see our results. Looks like we almost had a tie, but acquiring new donors and expanding your audience slightly beat uncertainties about the future of events, which is really, really interesting. I think those are both really, really interesting topics. We will be covering those today. And Brandon, from your experience, what do you make of these results?
That's kind of what I expected. I've talked to some nonprofits recently, and they're kind of intermixed, right? Uncertainties of events also leads to how do I get new donors and get people engaged. And sneak peek, you can do both with being on the route to success. So I think this is going to be a really helpful webinar for you, but also there's tons and tons of great content out there on these topics. So it really helps us kind of think about how we're going to talk about some of these things.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Alrighty, so let's get moving through our topics. So we're going to get started with planning your route. What do you need to be successful, not only in and around your events, but in your annual efforts as an organization? So starting first with our car, and Brandon, I'm going to pass this one off to you.
Awesome. Well, in order to get on the route or on Route 66, which is what was the trigger for this whole idea, you need to have the car. You need to have the mission of what moves you and gets you going. Oh, yep. So you need to determine what drives your organization, what really motivates people to give to your organization, and how do you differentiate even. So a key thing is are you going to do one event a year that's a big gala and that's going to be your pivotal event, and then you're going to have different small campaigns around it? Are you going to do multiple events? Are you going to do a golf tournament and gala? Those are the important things to establish. What are the pieces that are going to get your pathway going? And then you really need to know the people involved. So you need to know your team, who's on your team, who's available, who has capacity to help out in different aspects. What openings do you have that you need to fill? Those kinds of things. When you're looking at volunteers, who on your volunteer committee is armed and ready to go, and of your donor base, who's an active donor, who's inactive, and who can be brought in at maybe a bigger level and even maybe become a sponsor. Getting to know those people, what their level of interest is, and how they can be kind of the fuel behind what you're going to be doing throughout the year. And then goal setting is so important. And I know it's a challenge, but establish goals that aren't just the monetary goals. Think about your goals in regards to growth, in regards to mission moments and opportunities. Maybe it's a goal to have a simple type of engagement that you've never had before. Maybe it's a goal to have a growth in number of inactive donors becoming active again. It doesn't always have to be a tangible number. Create some, what we would kind of call, mission moment opportunities, but also create some ways to cross a threshold that is a success. I'm running out of the word that I was looking for, but you get the idea of really something that is along the way going to be, okay, we hit this landmark, what's next? And always remember, there's no shortcut to the success. You got to get on the route, you got to get going, and you need to make sure you have the pieces. And everyone's path or everyone's route is different. But each way you look at it, you're going to end up in a place of success if you put the pieces together that really lead you there.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry for accidentally jumping slides there for a moment, but those are all really, really great points. And moving into our first roadblock, you mentioned trying new things, going the extra mile, and that there aren't any shortcuts. Kathy, one of our biggest pain points or roadblocks is getting audiences to accept and use technology when they're used to pen and paper, physical paddles, and in-person events. What are more ways to get people to embrace technology in an event setting, especially if it's one of your goals?
For sure. And I will say, can I just say as a side note, I am here for everyone introducing themselves in the chat, and I think it's lovely. And also everyone keep your eyes on that chat because we're going to be sharing some resources that we're talking about. And I think there's actually quite a few that we're going to be sharing today. So keep your eyes open and we'll send them later in an email as well. But we know that kind of one pain point or one roadblock that people bring up to us often is, I don't know if my donor base would get on board with technology, or we're so used to being in a beautiful space. I just can't see people giving the same amount from home on their phone. And, with many of you shared that the idea of what events look like in the future, probably in the immediate future, is a little intimidating, and that virtual events and hybrid events are probably not going anywhere is some reality. So there are some things that you can do to make your staff feel confident and your volunteers feel confident, but also your donors and supporters feel confident in giving when it comes to technology. Now, I know that first point, kind of catalog with instructions, you're like, Kathy, you're talking about technology and then you're talking about a paper catalog. We did have an organization that we work with, DIFA, who sold a ticket that featured a printed catalog. So it was kind of one of the ticket levels. So the organization didn't incur unnecessary cost. People paid for it if they really wanted it. Some people, because they were featuring artwork or things like that, wanted it as like a souvenir. And so it was also kind of a revenue enhancer in that regard. And so, that catalog, if people really need it, there is an option to give that. And we also have seen a lot of organizations have an e-catalog. So have something featured kind of on their GiveSmart site where people can flip through with their mouse and feel like they're holding, like that they have something tangible. Another thing that we've seen a lot of success with and has definitely alleviated some of that technology adoption burden is having an FAQ section on the homepage of your campaign. And that's what the screenshot here, I believe, is showing. So think about any questions that you and your team get from, time or how to bid or whatever those things may look like, and write them out and put them out there and share them, via email, share them on your social, make sure your team has that information so that they can, easily share it with constituents. It sounds silly, but a lot of times people are anxious if there's unknown, right? That's kind of a marker of being anxious. So providing the answers and providing the what ifs and providing the knowledge makes people feel less anxious, and therefore you'll get less tactical questions and you'll have time to really spend supporting and relationship building with your donors. The idea of having 24-hour phone or email, that does not mean that you are expected to have like a phone at the ready on call, but that just means that there could be like a dedicated shared line, like a shared phone number. We used to do this at my old organization, and of course, people call, and a lot of times the questions they ask are FAQ questions, but then, again, your staff or your volunteers are armed and ready to kind of deliver that information or give those answers, and then have a general email box and definitely take the time to write out some kind of typical responses. So like, what time does the event start? So you can just have kind of a copy paste that you'd be easily able to send. And I'm a big proponent of bossing yourself around on your Outlook calendar. So, or your Google calendar, or whatever. So, just make it a point with the 2 weeks before your event to have staff all take a day to, check the shared email box when they start their day, in the middle of the day, and when they end their day. It does alleviate those questions. Again, empowering people with answers makes them feel, confident and ready, and it makes it all look like you're working together as a team. And then encourage family and friends. So we all know, because of things like peer-to-peer fundraising, that a lot of times, of course, we're going to say the technology is great. I mean, that's truer for us. We're Give Smart, right? But if other people are saying those things, if other people are saying it was easy, if other people are saying, their peers are saying that it was, they could adopt to it and they like it, and here's the reasons why, it might ease again some of those concerns. So having, like a table captain, or having, if you're a school, having, a parent in every class, or if you're a larger organization, just having some of those champions really be there to say, this is how we do it, or this is how I found this answer, or I really liked this. And helping others navigate, I think, is really helpful. And I think we've seen that a lot in like kickoff events, or like kickoff Zoom parties, or anything like that, that you have those volunteers kind of be the voice for anything that you're trying to accomplish. And adoption of technology is one of those things. No matter what, just make sure you're acknowledging anyone's concerns. You can't, if someone says they're worried about something, you can't say don't be, because they are. So spoiler, you have to be like, I understand that, I'm hearing you, and reassure them that you're there to help. But definitely share that using the technology opens the doors for your organization to grow and accept new donors and to expand your reach. And anybody who's supporting you wants that for you. So encourage them, listen to them, help them and guide them. And I promise, we've seen it all the time, that people have success. I think it's a fear that they were, didn't come to fruition. So that is kind of my 2 cents there.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy. It's, it's fun because I can think of how many times I've helped my mom or my dad or even my grandma when they're trying to donate to something, or, buy something online. And it's just about like getting your family members interested in what you're doing, what you're looking at. And if you need help, having someone there who can maybe help you and guide you through it. And I did also want to mention, when it comes to, like the 24-hour help desk, having your volunteers, checking email, checking phone and stuff like that, we do actually have a new services team that is dedicated to helping you with different components of your campaigns. And we have a team that is ready to help train you and train your volunteers. And we're going to be sharing a resource to that in the chat, so look for that. But we will keep moving into our road trip itinerary. So Brandon, you want to take this one away?
Yeah, and I'll try and emulate Kathy's energy, which is very hard to do, as we're all used to. When you think about your itinerary, it really is about breaking down your plans to make it easy to execute. So one piece of this is think about your plans, both in an annual aspect and an event specific aspect, because you're going to have different pieces to your itinerary. And it's so important. I know we all say, oh, you just say be creative, and then you don't give us all the examples. We have tons of examples we can give you, and we're more than happy to do so, but no one wants me to just read through those for hours because we wouldn't have the time. So we're going to give you 1 or 2 here, and then obviously there's going to be some resources for you to kind of dive into. But the one on the right here, the Corona Karaoke Challenge, which is also very hard to say fast, is one that one of the organizations we work with did this year. And there's a couple things that really jump out here. One, they called out a dollar amount that they potentially are at risk losing here, the $100,000. So important when you're building your plan to know what is your goal in fundraising dollars. It's not the only goal, but it is absolutely a part of your planning. Is your planning to also increase your donor pool? So for this organization, were they looking to get the $100,000 only? No, they're also looking for new donors. They're looking to get other people within their network to donate again, crucial as they do their annual plans. And here's some creative goals. Off-season stewardship. So are you not in your busy season and you need some different ways to just engage donors that are not as engaged throughout the year? Maybe you haven't talked as much. pick some donors, have some coffee meetings, have some opportunities to really engage them again, create some stewardship campaigns, and really see what you can get out of that. It's important to kind of think outside the box there with your annual planning. When you look at your year-long sponsorships, are you incorporating not just the event sponsorships, but also year-round opportunities? Can they be more involved in your website? Can they be more involved in your social? Can they do a video on why they're supporting you? Find different ways to incorporate them. And then I'm a huge proponent of this. I'm always talking about segmenting donors, and there's so many ways you can do it. The geek in me says there's thousands. I think I could probably come up with 1,000, but really get to know your donors. And that's the crucial piece. When you look at the segmenting, it's also important for your messaging to know that you're including everybody. And then you do need to be looking at your plans for the event specific side of things. So set goals, but also have a plan for in-person. I believe truly that everything starts as a hybrid, because now we always want to have that virtual component of people who can donate if they're not able to make it to the room. And that's kind of how I'm envisioning our future. That doesn't mean that's how everyone is, but know for a fact whether you're going to go in-person, hybrid, or virtual, and then make sure you have plans to support those. And if things change, have a backup plan. That's part of your itinerary. If you have to go off the road, make sure you know the path that you're leading towards. So have a virtual backup plan just in case. Have a plan to incorporate people in a hybrid aspect if they just do not want to attend in person for some reason or cannot. And then know what your dollars goals are, know what your awareness goals are. So awareness would be, really the ability to express your mission across many platforms, and then maybe think about doing programs where you can have a sponsorship match. If you have, you want to get more sponsors for your event and you have a major donor who's willing to be a match partner instead of doing a typical donation match, maybe see if they'll match as a sponsor match to see if you can get more corporations and companies in your area involved. Those are different goals to kind of think about. If you'd like specific info on the Corona Karaoke challenge, it's still very hard to say, but I'm getting better at it. We can definitely put that in the follow-up email so you can see that campaign live, or you can go to their social media here as you see on this post. I believe it's pronounced L'Arche Heartland. If I'm wrong, please correct me, but I gave it my best shot. I also don't say root the same way as everyone. So, but they have that campaign out there as well. So feel free to check that out. But that's the itinerary portion of things.
Yeah, thank you. And we did have a question come through, Brandon, if you want to touch on this just for a moment. Someone asking if we have experience with Venmo, Apple, or Google Pay. Venmo doesn't support nonprofits. So how we would work with those, and maybe we could roundabout way talk about taking in general donations.
Yeah, so our platform specifically, we have an integration with a specific credit card processor that you get set up with your own merchant account to process that. So we can address that specifically, but also those vendors obviously are for-profit vendors that allow you to also take transactions. So, I'm not as familiar with Venmo versus Apple versus Google Pay, but I would say one of the big things is, if they clearly say they do not support nonprofits like Venmo does, which it sounds like that's the case, I would highly recommend looking for vendors that are solely, or not solely focused, but are definitely focused on helping the nonprofit space and encouraging donors if they want to give through those ways. I mean, if someone has Venmo, my experience is they probably have another way to donate as well. And if you have a tool like ours, you can simply have them take a picture of their credit card through the browser on their phone, and it allows them to actually load the number. So it's actually really easy for them to donate through the platform. That's what I would recommend. Hopefully that answers the question. And then I did see a question about the sponsor match. I'll answer that really quickly. basically that was done by one of our customers where they had, and there's actually a jam session that Susanna can probably dig up and put into the chat, but they had a sponsor need for their event. They weren't getting as many sponsors as they thought. And they ended up having a major donor match the sponsorship dollars to encourage sponsors to come on board. So it was, hey, if you give us $1,000, this donor will also match that $1,000. We will talk a little bit more about sponsorship.
Awesome. Thank you. Those are really great points, and keep those questions coming. We'll keep rolling with slides and either apply them to what we're talking about or save them at the end. So keep those questions coming. And I see chat is really active, so keep it going. We love all of this activity. Moving on. So our next speed bump, we've gone over a roadblock, and that is incorporating technology. Now we've hit a speed bump. How are we going to plan for the unknown? And so Kathy, I wanted to pass this one off to you, but really quickly did want to make a note that, like we saw in Giving Tuesday of 2020, they had the highest numbers on record for Giving Tuesday. They raised 2.5 billion globally in one day between all of the Giving Tuesday campaigns that they tracked. And in 2020, donor mobility increased more than ever before, particularly in small donations. So keep that in mind as you're planning. And Kathy, I will let you take it away from here.
Sure, absolutely. So another kind of speed bump is how to plan for the unknown. Well, folks, I'm sure all of you are not going to be shocked by what I'm about to say, but we've had a lot of unknown over the past 18 months, and the near future kind of looks a little murky as well. But there are, as Madison just said, there have been successes. There have been bright spots on the fundraising side, and all of you listening today still have your doors open, right? It hasn't been without its certain pain points, but you haven't given up, and because what you do matters. And again, we've learned a lot. So no matter what the future holds, there is opportunity to either improve what you're doing or to maybe expand on your fundraising calendar in order to reach your goals. So something that we talk a lot about is kind of creative ideas. So for example, sometimes people will donate goods and services as opposed to money, or when you see that your money is attached to a good or service, they're more inclined to give, right? There's something there that they can connect to. So we do have a lot of people that we work with, a lot of organizations that we work with who put up like a wish list. And so perhaps, a hospital will put up, our children's hospital will put up, Target gift cards so we can buy toys for the kids, or an acute care facility will put up, help pay for our electric bill for this house for the month, or something like that. And we've had a lot of organizations have success that way. Again, you're still getting, $20 or $50 or $100 or whatever. But tying it seems to inspire giving in a way, because one of the reasons that people don't necessarily give is they don't know what the charity is doing with your money. So being able to kind of attach it so tangibly can really help kind of overcome that barrier. If you have GiveSmart, if you use GiveSmart, you can have unlimited campaigns throughout your subscription year. So we had a lot of groups. Madison kind of is familiar with one, who were able to stand up additional things. And I know you're saying, Kathy, you worked in fundraising for 12 years. You know that standing up a new event is not like you're acting like it's, like buying a bag of chips. No, it's not. I can appreciate that it's harder than that. But there are some easier things you can do. We've had groups set up donation campaigns around recurring giving, or we've had groups set up those wish lists and things like that and say, like Brandon's example, like, we have this unmet need. Can you help support us? And they put an email campaign behind that. We've had groups do things like set up kind of before their bigger event. They've done like a kickoff thing. So they've done like a cash dash. So can you donate $5? Can you donate $10? Now, ultimately, maybe that only raises $1,000, but you end up with 200 names that you didn't have before, because maybe they're new donors, because $5 is different. And then when you open up your auction for your event, if it's virtual or a hybrid, then you have people who can bid, or then you have people who might buy tickets, or then you have, fill in the blank. So sometimes when people do some of these smaller events or these side events or things like that, of course it is about the money that's being raised, and it's about the time and investment that you take too, and is it worth it? But you have to think about, and where a lot of organizations that we work with found success is they said, okay, what do we do with the information that we have now? What do we do with the new donors? What do we do with these people who live, outside of our zone and will never be able to come to our gala? How can we continue to engage them and get their support? And I think we're shared a resource about virtual fundraising examples. We have a bananas number of them, bananas number. So please, obviously look at what was shared in chat, but feel free to go ahead and look for other examples too. We've got many.
Yeah, thank you. That's really great. And I did want to just mention really quick, I see quite a few people raising hands. If you have questions, throw them in the Q&A or in the chat, because we're going to keep moving. So we just want to make sure that those people are getting touched on as we go. So let's move forward to our map. So you have your car, you have your itinerary, you have what you need to go, your plans, but you need a map to get there. So Kathy, I will let you take this one away as well.
Absolutely. And I think, Brandon had kind of touched on that. I guess let me back up. There's no way. We've done webinars, and they're all on demand and available to you, and perhaps being shared on sponsorship, on stewardship, on kind of a program and run of show, on securing items, on kind of all of those things. There's no way in the 2 minutes I'm going to chat about this that we can cover all of those with the depth and breadth that you need to be successful. But we did want to, it would be remiss not to say anything. And two, we want to maybe share just some little tidbits of ways to look at it differently. So on that sponsor side, Brandon had mentioned having a major donor match sponsorships, and how in the same way that having a match for a paddle raise or a match for a donation campaign inspires giving. There's a lot of data to support that. This organization in particular found a lot of luck with getting more sponsors to sign up on board. Of course, making your sponsorships, giving some variety. We saw a lot of success with folks having year-long sponsorships, because maybe they couldn't guarantee an in-person event or a hybrid event or an in-person component, but they could guarantee eyeballs on a virtual site, or eyeballs on an auction catalog, or eyeballs on a banner that's outside the school, or things like that. So we had a lot of groups have luck with those sorts of things. Stewardship. We talk about it a lot because it's so, so, so important. And to steward your donors, definitely, of course, say thank you always. Look at your donors as your corporate donors, individuals and sponsors, and people who donate to your action, right? We should be thinking about how can we steward, how can we bring people into the story? Because when people feel engaged with your mission and engaged with your organization, they're more likely to continue to give. So I think one prime example that I come up with that I found success with was we asked our donors and volunteers to volunteer at other things. So not just siloed within the campaign I worked on, but can you help support this other initiative? Not with money, not with a ton of time, but would it be something you'd want to do? And we had overwhelming interest. And then those same people, because I followed them, followed their kind of history, were much more responsive to me, were much more engaged, definitely in many cases raised more money. So I think sometimes we think, oh, if I let so-and-so ask them to volunteer, that means they're never going to help me again. And that's just not true. And it only opens the opportunity for them to learn more about your organization and get more invested. And again, do the same thing with people who donate to your action. I said this all the time in my past life, and I say it now. You don't know someone's story, and you don't know a reason why someone gave. So maybe the restaurant that gave you a gift card has a very strong personal connection to your mission. And they're not going to tell you that. They don't know you. It might be very personal. But if you invite them to other things, those stories will bubble to the surface, and you might find yourself just getting a more quality donor pool. And then that run of show. I know we're going to share these two things in the chat, but there are options to do contactless check-in and contactless checkout, an item kind of pickup. And that's really important to people now, not only for safety, but over the past year and a half, it's become a lot of people's preference. And so being able to give, even after safety is less of a concern, being able to kind of give people their preference is really important. And we talked a lot about those kind of instructions too, and transparency is really important. So that's part of your FAQ. We've had a lot of organizations, due to public health mandates, have to put certain things out there and require certain things of their guests. that's not going to change. And so maybe skirting the issue isn't helpful, right? So you want to put that in your FAQ. You want to put that in your email. You want to make sure people are informed, because then everything will go smoothly. Everyone knows what they're getting into. It's going to be great. So those are just kind of some really important things. And Brandon, you were going to chat about auction and a roadblock some people are seeing, or a stop sign.
Yeah, so not going to stop on the stop sign, but we are going to roll into the silent auction here a little bit. And I'll just cover some of this because we've talked a lot about silent auctions over the past year, a little bit more of just some of the different changes. But my number one thing is, when you're thinking about, I need to get items for my silent auction, is don't hesitate to ask. Yes, we know that there are some businesses that were hit a little bit harder than the others on the pandemic, but they need the business and they need the awareness. And it's so important to at least ask and see if they'd be interested. If they haven't given to you before, it doesn't hurt to ask. The worst thing you'll hear is, no, we don't do that, or no, we're not interested. And then you'll know, and that'll be less of the unknown. How to ask is definitely crucial. And when you think about it, there's not one ask and then that's it. You need to have a letter formally saying, this is what we're asking for. You need to know what you're looking for. So when you reach out, you can say, hey, I am so-and-so from this organization looking for this. Would you be willing to make the donation through a phone call? Have an idea of what the fair market value is so that you know how to price that item. Find out if there's any restrictions as well, and make sure you send them a receipt. Now, through our platform, you do have the ability to accept donations of auction items that get added right into your auction through the platform. So there is a convenience there, because they also can get a receipt for that donation. So certainly, if you have access to a platform, use those capabilities. And on the right here, I'm not going to go into all these things here. There's tons of ideas, but just being mindful of our time, what's going to get you to your item goal. Think about some of these things as kind of ideas of where to look, what's interesting. And then on the right, these are items that receive no bids at all in an auction. And this is the percentage of items. So you can see which items are at the highest. 3.67 or 69% is the highest percentage. And then the lowest is in there, the most interesting. Food is the lowest, health and fitness was the highest. I have no comment on why that's the case, but for auctions, that was the performance. And if you look at things like alcohol wine packages, do very, very well. 1% of them got zero bids. So we can give you all kinds of different insights through this, but this is one way the silent auction studies kind of helped us identify different categories that perform in different ways. And if it's marked as TBD, it's because we didn't really know what it was. And then obviously there's also this great blog post that we've had out there for a long time. That's 30 silent auction items that don't cost a dime. Definitely check that piece out.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. We will also be sharing a link to one of our episodes from the Blueprint series on item solicitation. So look for that in the chat as well. And moving forward, I will cover this and I'll cover it pretty quickly. But when I was putting this together, I wanted to come up with some ways to, showcase entertainment in a really interesting way. And so on a road trip, you have your entertainment because you never want to hear like, are we there yet? Like, you don't want your donors to be sitting there thinking, oh my God, when is this going to end? So this is donor bingo. And basically, we as organizations, you may not be able to do all of these ideas to keep your donors captivated during your events, but you can take this as a creative way to, even if you did 1 or 2 rows of donor bingo, those are fun ways to keep them captivated before event, during event, after event, and even when you're not running events, just to keep people, keep your organization top of mind. And so we have some really great examples. I will share this little screenshot in the resource email that we will be sending at the end of today as well. Just keep your donors captivated and, keep them interested in what you're doing year round, in and out of events. And to give you some examples of organizations who have done this, one is the Hyacinth AIDS Foundation. They have done 9 virtual bingo events since early spring 2020, and they've raised over $12,000 total since doing those events. And they do them in a holiday theme, and even without a theme. They've done an 80s theme. They even did one that was staff exclusive and sponsor exclusive. And it's just, they're easy to run, they're easy to duplicate, easy money raisers, low upfront costs, and it's a creative way to stay top of mind and encourage more event participation to grow your audience. And then our other example is the Suncoast Humane Society's Pet Palooza. They had a voting event, and you could vote any amount on a pet of your choice under different categories. Again, easy, fast fundraiser. You see, it was $1 per pet, and the photos are absolutely adorable. They have a really great video on the homepage of their campaign. If you take a look at that, you have to scroll a little bit, but it explains how the campaign worked in a really fun way. And who doesn't love happy, adorable animals in costumes doing fun things? So those are just some fun, captivating event examples. And I know I glossed over those really quickly. We will be sharing those, but we've got about 10 minutes left, so I want to keep us rolling. So moving on to road trip snacks. So what are the little extras that can drive your success on your route to success? And Kathy, take it away.
Snacks, my favorite. The fact that food had the least amount of bids makes me smile. So snacks, that's mine. So what are some of those kind of extra things that you can do to continue to grow, right? Because ultimately in fundraising, growth is the name of the game. That's what we want to see. That's what is expected. And that's how we, generally speaking, measure success when it comes to total fundraising. So, that being said, if you do an in-person component, hybrid, or fully in person, your room is capped, right? Your room can only hold so many people. So it's either get a bigger room, can you double the amount of people, whatever. There are things you can do to kind of drive revenue that don't necessarily mean taking on kind of bigger logistical questions. So having that virtual component, if there's one thing you hear us say today, I think that is, if we were to put people who maybe had less kind of speed bumps and stop signs that got in their way a year and a half ago versus people who did, it would be that they had some sort of technology or embraced technology pretty quickly to make that virtual component happen. Because some of the things we've mentioned, do a kickoff raffle and not only raise a little revenue, but get some names so that when you open up your virtual auction or you start selling tickets or you have an event in the future, you have a new pool of people that you can kind of continue to bring into the fold. And that kind of goes with that raffle with the ticket purchase that entices people to buy tickets, right? We did have a group that did a post-event raffle because they were close to their goal and they had, I think, some items that they had held back and were deciding to use for other things. And when you say, like Brandon had mentioned earlier, like we're this far away from our goal, this is what we're going to do to make that happen. Please support us. That they, again, got people who came into the fold, people who had supported them and heard their mission story, all of those things. And of course, there's other standard kind of revenue enhancers, which I think we're sharing some examples maybe in the chat. But there's, wine pull, there's a diamond raffle, there's a raffle wall, there's last paddle standing. There's all of these things that you can do to add some life back into your event. And keep in mind, a lot of people haven't been to a fundraising event in a little over 2 years. So if you can kind of make it jazzy and creative and fun, I think you will find exponential growth will follow. And those are just really, really important things to consider.
Absolutely. Yeah, those are really, really great points and really great examples as well. And to keep things moving, we've got a little over 5 minutes left. So we're gonna keep rolling, keep those questions coming so that we can save those for the end. But now we're heading into the last portion of the webinar, which we have 3 campaign examples from different organizations, 1 virtual, 1 hybrid, and 1 in person. They're all really creative campaigns that ended with great success. And it just shows that sometimes taking the path less traveled can drive your organization to new heights. So let's dive into these. And I will get us started. So I have some examples on the screen to show you, their campaign, but there will be a link in the chat. The Taylor Hagan Memorial Foundation did their 4th annual Utah Vision Day, and example of a great in-person event. In the morning, they had a vehicle and motorcycle vision rally in memory of lost loved ones. And along the rally route, they had volunteers holding signs where people had submitted loved ones that they had lost to suicide, and other, cancer and other things. And so, you're passing these signs and it's really meaningful and really impactful. And then in the evening, they had a casino gala with dinner, drinks, casino games, and live and silent auctions. They even raffled off a brand new Harley Davidson motorcycle, and it was $100 per entry, which was really interesting. They showcased champion pages. They had guests sign a safety waiver. So really great idea, follows local guidelines, in-person event that was very recent. And so, like I said, there's a link to a campaign in the chat for that. And so we will move into our hybrid event. Brandon, this one's yours.
Yeah, so my friends over at Make-A-Wish Wisconsin, I feel like I talked to Andrea yesterday, but we've been talking a lot about how they were able to pull off kind of their own version of hybrid here. So in-person and virtual viewing parties were done, and they actually partnered. And if you visit the link in chat, you'll be able to see they partnered with a theater company that had multiple Marcus Theaters, who's at multiple theaters across the area, and actually had the virtual viewing parties at the theaters, which was kind of a fun spin on that, where people gathered in a bigger room, a little more spread out, and a few more people could get together, where it wasn't relying on other people's houses. But it's the same concept of virtual viewing parties. They had their virtual auction. They had this really great diamond pull. So you can see on here, they had different light up rings that you could purchase to get a chance at winning the diamond, which is really cool, but also, a unique way to create a game of chance for everyone to participate in. And then, of course, they do a great job of doing a really diverse auction. So it came back to the things that worked for them, but creating that experience that it's still kind of a night out without doing 1,500 people in a room type thing.
Absolutely. And there will be a link to this one in the chat as well. This is a really, really great example. Amazing organization. And we are going to move into our final example, which is our virtual campaign. So Kathy, this one's yours.
Perfect. Yeah. And this one, we won't be sharing the link in chat because it's not live anymore, but I think you will all you're all smart people. You'll all get kind of the gist of it. So they did something that was really, really fun. And they did a virtual kind of pizza making night. So I don't know. I will say I have a toddler, and I will say pizza making became our activity for the pretty much the first 6 to 9 months of 2020. And it was just a really fun thing to do. And I'm sure other people who work with children or around children can appreciate that. Somewhat messy, but fun. And so this school, they did where people could purchase pizza kits, and they had a whole system for kind of picking them up at the restaurant and the logistics of it all, or at the school, I should say. And then they had a chef kind of come on the virtual event and talk about kind of how to put it together and how to cook it and how to get it ready for the oven and all of those things. And then while the pizza was cooking, they did some trivia, which was really fun. And then all was said and done, I believe they stood up fairly quickly in terms of kind of put the plan together, made sure they had the tools to be successful, and they raised just over $16,000 to benefit financial aid at the school. So again, I said earlier, like trying new things can be taxing. If there's something like this, it could be cookies, it could be kind of any other event, it could be put on by a committee or a junior board or something like that. If you have kind of the pieces in place, or in a bakery or another restaurant that would be willing to support you, or even we've had groups say, here's a recipe and go buy the stuff yourself. We'll cook it together and then we'll do trivia and all of that. There are ways to make it happen where the lift is lighter. But hopefully if there's, of all the things on getting to your route to success today, if there's one thing that's kind of hopefully stood out is that you should consider being creative and trying new things because your mission depends on it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kathy. What a fun and unique event to help us wrap up those campaign examples. So as we head toward the end of today's session and the Q&A, I just wanted to button up some of the main takeaways from our conversations. First of all, don't give up. Take risks, try new things, be creative. You will end up engaging more donors, bringing in more dollars, and helping your mission grow. Second, we mentioned that there are no shortcuts to success. I wish we had that secret sauce and we could give out a recipe for it, but we don't. And so what we can provide you with is tips and tricks, tools, examples, and resources to guide you along that path to success. We can overcome speed bumps, roadblocks, and stop signs together. And third, planning is your best friend. Plan for every scenario, know your options, know your goals, and spend more time getting to know your donors, volunteers, sponsors, and board members. Building relationships can grow to new and better opportunities. And with that, let's head into our Q&A. We can pass our first question to Kathy. What app did they use for the virtual pizza night? Did they use Zoom?
To be honest, I don't know that answer, but they did live stream it. So I know we have a lot of groups who work with us and they use GiveSmart integrates with like Vimeo, Canva video, and Facebook Live and YouTube Live. And then, Zoom is an option too. I would say whatever the school had is probably what they used.
Perfect. And let's see. Brandon, can we talk a little bit more about sponsor match strategy, and especially before you have an ask, how to build your sponsor strategy?
Yeah, we can absolutely do that. Sponsor strategy, I could probably talk for 45, 50 minutes on. We have done a few webinars and can send some resources like our corporate donation guide. It has some templates for you as well. But that is also something where it's like, set a goal. So have a tangible goal for either the quantity of sponsors at the different levels you have or the amount you raised, and then really look at who's sponsored in the past and set up a strategy to identify people that are sponsoring other like organizations, maybe in different communities, maybe you have sister organizations if you're part of a national organization. So you can find some potential fits for your local community. So instead of just going out there and saying, I'm going to contact everyone in this neighborhood and hope that someone sponsors me, be a little bit more strategic on it. So the strategy of that is really going to be more of the research side and finding those tidbits. Why would so-and-so corporation sponsor this organization in Florida? It's the same type of organization as mine. They have a location here. Maybe they'll do that for me. We do have a great resource with the corporate donation guide that allows you to kind of see by mission some organizations and corporations that support based off of the mission types that's actually listed on many of their websites. But do some research and that'll help with your strategy and the acquisition of it. And the sponsor match, if you have a major donor, you have always counted on for a match for your live appeal and you're considering going virtual, you don't want to lose that match opportunity. So that's a chance where it's someone that fits perfectly, but it's also something to start talking to your board about and have them think about who of their network might be a good fit for that type of thing. Hopefully that answers some of that at least.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are all really great thoughts. And just one last question, Kathy, if you want to touch on it really quickly. Any tips on building online followers and increasing, your donor base to encourage more event participation? Just some of the things that organizations can do to bring in new audiences.
Sure. I'm going to be an older millennial here, but I will say storytelling is probably the most genuine way to get people who are actually interested, invested in your mission, invested in your organization. So be that sharing stories or shouting out top fundraisers, or shouting out really hardworking committee members, tagging them in your social, and doing so in any sort of email newsletter too. We did a blueprint series, and an organization said the second she started sharing stories at the top is when they got more interest in the kind of action items they were sharing at the bottom. And I think that that's so true, right? If someone you have a relationship with is only ever asking you for things, you're going to get annoyed. But if there's opportunities to kind of learn about them as a person, it's just how we all prefer to be, right? And I would say the same is true. Of course, I'm sure there's like social media webinars you could do about hashtags and things like that. But, I just think in general, another big way, and I guess this is the last point, is to lean onto your community. I think Madison and Brandon both touched on it. Get to know your donors, get to know your sponsors, encourage them to be a part of other things, encourage them to invite their friends and family. I think we sometimes think that those are logical things, like, oh, they're really invested in us, they're going to invite other people with them. But make them a table captain, make them feel special, make them feel important to you, because they are, and they will in turn probably be able to get more people kind of into your fold. So those are, I guess, a little hodgepodge of some tips and tricks, but there's a lot you can do. And like anything, you have to make a thoughtful plan, and kind of sit down and put some pen to paper or typing to computer to kind of put out some ideas and give them a go. The worst thing that happens is they won't work the best way you thought you would, but you learn something and be able to do better next time.
Yeah, and Kathy, you made a lot of good points there. And you obviously, both being marketing people, we're plugged into a lot of the social media side of it. But one of the things to think about is really looking at your audience and seeing who's active in other things. What are their activities? And not in the stalker way that sounds, but more of the doing your research. So if they're playing in a softball league and you have a few people that are playing in that softball league, maybe invite them to start a softball team on your behalf. There's organizations that do that, where they get their board or their constituents together, create some engagement that allows them to participate together. And really, it's important to think about social media as an avenue to tell your story, but also to differentiate your story, because every organization is on social media. Every organization has a Facebook page, but what makes yours different? And if you're one of the few that is doing something that's super unique and stands out, then that's going to resonate, even if it's just a simple spin on something that someone else did. And we always circle back to the campaigns that people always recall, the ice bucket challenge type things. So think about, what can you spin off and do for your constituency that really resonates, and that might be that one tidbit that does it for you. So just wanted to throw that out there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we all remember the ice bucket challenge. I participated in that one as well. So I think that's it for questions for today. We can follow up with any other questions if you want to reach out with us, or reach out to us. You can also go to givesmart.com/demo and schedule a demo if you want to see more examples and talk to someone about how GiveSmart can work for your organization. Or if you're a customer, reach out to your CSM, your customer success manager, for more information. Save the date for next month's webinar. The topic is to be determined. So you will see an email coming for that very soon, but that will be Thursday, September 16th, same time, same place as today. And next week, there will be a customer exclusive product webinar led by Susanna, who's been interacting with you guys in the chat and Q&A. And it will be about GiveSmart's newest 7.0 release and some really great new features. And that'll be next Thursday. Again, that is customer exclusive. So if you would like a link to that, contact your customer success manager. And if you're not a customer, that's a really great insight into seeing resources that we have for our GiveSmart customers to ensure their success. We're always working with them to help them succeed in all of their endeavors. And that wraps up today. That is the end of our Getting on the Route to Fundraising Success webinar. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Kathy. We will see everyone next time.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining us on the route to success.
Root it is.
Bye.
Have a great day, everyone.